Changing our story. My aunt was 101 and a half when she died, and I used to ask her what it was like to be like 99, 100, and 101 and a half. And she'd say, we're here to learn lessons. And then I realized we're here to learn these lessons, and then we're here to share these lessons with others so that you don't have to suffer. This is what I do. I like to share lessons so that you don't have to suffer. When was the last time you looked in the mirror and liked who you are? Without saying, oh, I like myself, but I'd like to change this. Oh, I like myself, but I'd like to change that. 3 things I always tell people to remember is to know that you have the right to speak up today, tomorrow, every day. And this is something we need to teach our children. We all make mistakes. None of us is perfect. And to be curious about what's happening in our life and what might be happening for someone else, because none of us have a perfect past. And this is important because our mistakes do not have to define our future. It's okay. And our scars remind us where we have been, but they don't have to define us. Each of you out there deserves to be happy at home and in the workplace. And how success and happiness looks and feels will be different for everybody. For example, if you're like me, parts of your childhood weren't exactly thrilling, and many of you might have had downright violent, abusive homes. Thankfully, I didn't. But when you were younger, what did you do to have fun, play, and be silly? These are some of the self-care tools children have, and you know what? It's okay to still do that when you're older. To play, to be silly, to have fun. It looks a little different, though. I remember one time when I was feeling quite depressed, I bought Horton Hears a Who, which is by Dr. Seuss, and it was one of my favorite books. Don't fall into the when and then game. When this happens, then I'll be happy. When this happens, then I'll be happy. Why can't you be happy now? I think this is really important. And it's an opportunity to self-reflect. And self-reflection is good. It's healthy. It's not self-shaming. That's different. Self-reflection is saying, this is what's happened in my life. What is good? What is not good? What can I change and what can I not? You can't change the past. You can't deny it, but you can edit your story for a bestseller in the future. I can remember at one time when I was feeling really lonely because I thought I'm never going to meet anybody. And it was almost like a desperate and dateless kind of mentality where I lowered my standards of the kind of person I wanted. And as a result, I repeated the same kind of patterns. As you are aware, I was in the RCMP and I was bullied. Bullying wears us down. It also affects our self-esteem. And when that happens, it can send you into a spiral of self-doubt, self-loathing, and not being able to see some patterns of behavior that you might be repeating that are unhealthy. And I've witnessed the darker side of society. And so I know exactly how desperate people can be in their darkest moments. A bully at home, a bully in the workplace, a bully in cyberspace, a bully in public spaces. These are all bullies with the same intent: to wound, to have power over, to hurt, and destroy. And bullying wears and tears down our self-esteem and can severely change how we value who we are. And this is what they count on. They count on you starting to think there must be something wrong with me. And although I could share a whole bunch of stories, and another time I will, I want to talk about moving from desperate and dateless to single and sensational and valuing who you are. I can remember my first attachment, one of my self-care tools was painting my nails. And I used to do this on Thursdays, either before a night shift or after a night shift. And it was something little it's the little things you can do that make you feel good about you. Nobody else can do that except you. That's only you can make you happy. You can't make anyone else happy. That's their choice. And it's an active choice. So what little things do you do to make you feel good, to recharge who you are in stressful situations and in life in general? A happy mommy is a better mommy. A happy woman is a more content woman who values her voice and can handle the stresses of life. During this time of being bullied, I dated a lot, and I was feeling really lonely. And the longer I was single, the more I thought, I'm never going to find anyone. And it's very difficult to find anybody. I found as a single cop in a small town, I mean, if you want to, it's like we're labeled. We're either too manly, or we're just not available. I found people were afraid to date me, which is really ridiculous. And over the years, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be desperate and dateless for the rest of my life. So when I moved back to Manitoba, a friend of mine said, why don't you join this group, a singles group? And I thought, okay, I'll join it. And I thought, okay, this sounds like fun. It's dances, and you're not looking for a mate. You're looking for like companionship, some fun, someone to go on dates with, maybe a movie. And in this huge building, when I went there must have been 1,000 people. And I thought, this is great. I got to find some friends here. And they were all ages, shapes and sizes. And this group was created by somebody to help single people find friends. And sometimes you find a partner. And it was a new group, and I felt very vulnerable. You know, it's intimidating going to a group where there's 1,000 people. Everybody seems to know everybody, and you're the only one there. But I could see hope. There was some, you know, I saw a couple of people in there, and we exchanged names and numbers. And so the next week, bachelor number 1, we met at a public place, because always be safe. That's the key. And we met at the Fort Garry Museum, and I brought my daughter there. He brought a couple of friends, so it was a public setting, and there was no pressure or anything like that. It's a beautiful, warm, sunny day, and we chatted and laughed and enjoyed the picnic. And then he asked the inevitable question, what do you do? And of course, he didn't seem alarmed, which is, again, a good sign. And I thought, well, then he asked about children, and I told him about my children. And I thought, well, back to dateless. Because it seems he hated his ex-wife. He went on and on about how much he hated his ex-wife. She was a cheater and a thief, and his current ex-girlfriend was not very good. And I thought, you know what? He rambled on for 20 minutes, and I thought, this is not the kind of person I want to hang out with. It was an opportunity for a very short first date. I refused any further dates with him, very politely, of course, but quite firm. Following week, bachelor number 2, I met at the Olive Garden, and I arrived early, sort of stake out the public place and where's a nice place I could sit and see who was coming in. And I was pleasantly surprised. Again, a very handsome man in a nice dress suit, and he appeared to be very intelligent. But what bothered me was there was 4 chairs at our table. There's only 2 of us. He took off my coat and put it on the floor, and then put his coat there. Then he proceeded to tell me that he lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. He has a single bed and 1 table and 1 chair. And his mother brings him his supper. Now, I don't know if that's something you'd be attracted to, but at 35 years old, that's not something I'm attracted to. So thank you very much. Bachelor number 2 was a bust. Then, bachelor number 3. If you want to get rid of men, this is what you say. I love you, I want to have your baby, I want to marry you. And they leave skid marks out the door. It's quite funny. It got to the point where I could figure out in just a few sentences, is this the person I want to spend some time with? No, not at all. In the beginning, it was interesting because I looked at what my standards were of a potential partner. He had to have a job, or make equal or better than me. He had to have hair, but not necessarily on his head and not only on his back. Had to have some sort of fitness regime in his life, because that's part of me. I love that. Good hygiene including flossing teeth. That's a big thing. And as for parenting, he had to be good to children and old people, because guess what? I have a child, and one day I'm going to be old. A friend of mine who was a family friend had asked me out a couple of times, and he had this terrible reputation of scoring with everybody. And I thought, okay, well, he just wants to go for dinner. I don't mind that. We can go for dinner. So we went for dinner, and it was a beautiful conversation, fantastic food. And then people change when they get to your door. We were at my house. I'm about to walk into my own home, and he's trying to push himself in. I went, no. And our relationship changed completely. Because to me, I don't have to say no more than once. You never have to explain no. No is no. So that was bust with that one. My cousin was in medicine, and he said, Sherry, you're such a beautiful, sweet lady. I know lots of people in medical school, dozens and dozens of people you could go out with. And I said, well, thank you very much. On one condition, you pick somebody that you would like your sister to date. Well, all of a sudden, his dozens and dozens of people narrowed down to 3 people. And that's interesting. Doctor number 1 was a bust. He could not stop talking about I'm a good listener. He could not stop talking about his ex-girlfriend of 5 years and how she loved him, but she dumped him just before he was going into medical school because she wasn't sure if she wanted to hang out and wait that long. And I thought, oh, brother. I said, just call her. You're almost finished now. Maybe she's single again. And guess what? They eventually got married. Doctor number 2, the following week, canceled twice, the very last minute. So meanwhile, I had to drive into Winnipeg, pay for a babysitter, and that never got babysat. And I thought, that's a bust. Doctor number 3 could not make up his mind whether he wanted to date me with a small child or another girl. I just politely got up and left. If someone has to compare you to another woman to decide if they want to date you, run like your hair's on fire. Someone who really wants to be with you will find a way to be with you in a loving way. Finally, I decided to not waste my time anymore. And I was calling my therapist and lamenting about what's wrong? Why do I keep dating these losers? Why can't I find someone good? What's happening? Why is this happening? And she was a wise lady, and she said, Sherry, I've been waiting a long time for you to ask that question. And so I thought, okay, let's solve this problem. And she said, what's the most common factor in all these relationships? And I had to think, well, it's me. I'm the most common factor in all these relationships. And she said, yes. And I said, so why is this happening? And she said, Sherry, you're going to have to think about that, and then we'll talk next time. I was so mad. I thought, that's your job, to save me and rescue me. But no, it wasn't. You see, when we think we deserve shitty relationships, when we think we aren't worthy, when we think we aren't valued, when we think and believe we have no choices in who we select, and when we think we are lonely, and when we believe we're desperate, we're never going to find anyone, we lower our standards, we miss out the important red lights on behaviors. But guess what, my friends? You can change that pattern of behavior. And I did. With her help, I realized my pattern of behavior was just that. I didn't believe and felt I had any worthy. And being bullied only seemed to exaggerate those feelings of negativity I had about myself. And with her help, and it took many months to learn to value my own gifts, to appreciate who I was, and learn to forgive myself for the poor choices that I had made, and recognize what are healthier choices in relationships. And as I became, and as you become more confident and happy, I established boundaries on behaviors I would accept and behaviors I would not accept with my family, my friends, and specifically in my relationships. By changing my pattern of thinking and believing, I changed the pattern of attracting. Instead of looking at every potential date as a lifetime partner, they were a practice person. I could cut through the bullshit, the fakeness. I could see the red lights. I could see the problems of this person doesn't like women. They're still hung up on an old girlfriend. They're too controlling, or they don't like children. They hit their dog. I don't want those kind of people in my life. You can separate them and figure out. And I did. When we make excuses for abusers, we're allowing the pattern to continue. When we face the fact that we are allowing this to happen because we don't value ourselves, then it's really important to change that pattern. And there is never an excuse for abuse. Neglect is abuse. Yelling and screaming at somebody is abuse. Controlling somebody is abuse. And there's a fine line between being attentive and controlling. For me, instead of valuing a partner with hair, I valued, were they honest? Were they kind? Were they truthful? Were they someone who could be trusted? Were they someone who told the truth all the time? Were they forgiving? Because we all make mistakes. No yelling, because that's the fastest way to kill love, and it's a form of intimidation. I wanted a person with smart conversation, love of knowledge, because as we grow old, that is what you share. Self-assured and not jealous. Because who wants a stalker, right? And someone who is funny. I have a great sense of humor. Compassionate, physically attractive, because you have to be attracted to them somehow. That's what separates friends from lovers. Someone who likes to be physically active. Who wants a slug? I don't. Couples who do things together, who spend time together, who share their thoughts and their moments together, usually stay together. But being an individual yet apart, you don't need to lose yourself in your relationship to be together. Encouraging personal growth, expanding your comfort zone. There's nothing wrong with going to a movie by yourself. I do it very often. Someone who expands your horizons, doesn't narrow them. And a partner who valued my daughter as much as I did, and valued the dreams and hopes that I had. And looking back on this journey, I can see that it was in fact a journey, and I'm so thankful for all those practice people that weren't very nice, because they helped me realize that's not what I want. They helped me realize the kind of person I wanted, and I found them. And he has been the best practice person for the last 24 years. Is everything perfect? Absolutely not. Do I like my own space? Absolutely. Learn to value yourself today and every day. Speak up for yourself. If you can't speak up in your relationship, ask yourself, why are you there? Be curious about patterns of behavior. If you can't talk about your relationship, why are you there? Encourage positive changes within yourself, because the only person you can change is you. And create your own happiness, because you can't make anyone else happy, and no one else can make you happy. My partner is part of my happiness. He isn't all my happiness. And there's no longer a fear for you or me if we end up being single for whatever reason. Because if you value who you are, if you like who you are, if you believe in your voice, you are never, never alone. So enjoy your alone time. If someone comes along, great. Set boundaries and value your voice no matter where you are.